All right, Honors Math, we're going to spend some time reviewing what we've done in the last 2 days, just because I've noticed today that I have so many kids at a level of frustration when it comes to multiplying decimals. So I hope by just taking this time to explain it a little bit more in detail, and then tomorrow when you come in, taking some more time with you, and then we'll do a quick quiz to kind of see where you're at with that. Because the way that the system has us working right now, this lesson that I should be doing for you tonight should be on dividing by decimals, but I don't feel comfortable moving there yet until you are confident with dividing by decimals. So this is still part of chapter 1, and it's lesson 1 and part E. So it's the same one that we've been on, or that we were on yesterday, but I'm just going to spend some more time on it doing some practice examples. So let's start down here, and I wonder if I am disconnected because there we go. Now we're working. The first day that we talked about multiplying decimals by decimals, we used base 10 blocks to see what was happening. So in a base 10 block, we had a flat, and in that flat, we highlighted 6. So we went up and we had 6/10 because we know that a long is a tenth. And so we had 6/10 on this side. And then we were going to shade in 5/10 on the opposite side. And then we said, remember that each piece in the center is a hundredth. So where the 5/10 and the 6/10 overlap is how many decimals are in that grouping. So if we were to count up these decimals, we would see that we have 30 hundredths within there. And we can write 30 hundredths also. We can annex that 0, and we can say 30 hundredths is the same as 3/10. So that was what we were getting comfortable in the first day, looking at the base 10 blocks and the representation with the multiplication. And then what we started doing was taking that and just going into algorithms and trying to use traditional multiplication to solve multiplying decimals by decimals. And this is where we got tricky because I could tell that some of you aren't confident with your multiplication. Traditional to me is, especially with decimals and as we get into higher math, is the best way to do multiplication, but it's not the only way. So remember that as much as I try to push you to get to traditional, if you're still with that partial products or with lattice, that I don't want to discourage you from that, but I just want to push you now into traditional. So let's start with number 2. We have 1 and 4/10, and we're going to multiply that by 2 and 56 hundredths. I'm going to put, this is just me personally, put 2 and 56 hundredths on the top and multiply the 1 and 4/10 below, because the larger the number on the bottom, the larger your multiplication is going to be, and the addition. I mean, the more work that you're going to have down here with your multiplication. Now, doing this, we have 1 times 4. And remember, when we multiply, you're not worried about that decimal and the factors. These are your factors. Up here, you're not worried about where that decimal is. When you do addition and subtraction, you're concerned about it. You have to line up place value in addition and subtraction. However, in multiplication, that is not a concern. So 4/10 times 6 hundredths would be 24. We put the 4, and then we're going to carry the 2 up to the tenths. 4/10 times 5/10, and we have 20 hundredths plus the 2, 22, 2, and carry the 2 to the next place value. 4 times 2 wholes, then we have 8/10 plus 2 more, and we have 10. All right, so now we're going to multiply by the 1 in the whole place. It is the next place over from the 4, so we're going to put a place value holder. In your examples, even if you look up here, we notice that in our examples, they don't put that place value holder, they just move the digit over. But I always like having that place value holder in there just to keep it neat and so that you don't have a minor mistake. I'm going to put the 0 in there to hold that place, and I'm going to start multiplying by 1. So 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 5. 1 times 2. I have these two products that I'm going to add up to get my combined total. 4, 8, 5. Oops, excuse me. 2 plus 1. We have 3. So 3, 5, 8, 4. Now we have to figure out, it's not a whole number, so it's not 3,584. We have decimals. So now we go back to our factors to tell us how many decimal places. Well, we have 2 in the top factor and 1 in the bottom factor, so that's 3. So now we're going to hop over 3 spots. Okay, so we have 3 and 584 thousandths. All right, so that's where we're at with that one. Now, I also said, and some of you were practicing this today, that for some kids, because that decimal just freaks them out, what I have you do, and we'll practice this some more tomorrow too, is take the decimal out in your multiplication and look at them as whole numbers. So let's look at the same one here. Instead of, same one as number 2, instead of writing 2 and 56 hundredths, we write 256. And instead of writing 1 and 4 tenths, we're going to multiply times 14. Okay, doing the same multiplication, put place value holder in, you're going to end up with the same numbers, 4, 8, 5, 3. But now what you need to do, though, because your decimal isn't up here, you need to look at the original problem, see how many places are in the decimal, there are 3, and make sure that you put the appropriate, or the decimal in the appropriate spot. Okay, so this way works. You just can't forget that it's a decimal. There's decimals that you're multiplying, and you have to make sure that at the end, you're going to put those decimals in. Okay. I know that some other kids too, what they have done is on their graph paper, they have highlighted the numbers that are decimals, and then when they find their product, then they highlight the numbers that are decimals because there's 3 in the factor, so there's 3 in the product, and then put your decimal point in and continue on. So I know that for some of you that you're stressing out about it, but just know that we're going to take some more time, spend another day on it, and maybe it's not so much doing the algorithms. I've noticed even when we have story situations that some of you are getting a bit overwhelmed. Let's look at something like number 8, when we have 3 hundredths times 9 hundredths. Lots of zeros. That was another thing today that a couple of you were so many zeros you just don't even know what to do with it. So you could do it the first way and take 3 hundredths and multiply it by 9 hundredths. So let's multiply it like a decimal. 9 times 3, 27. 9 times 0 is 0 plus the 2. Okay, so 9 times 0 and 0. We have zeros here in the tenths place, and then in the ones place, you could put your place value holder, then multiply by zeros, then put your place value holders in and multiply now by zeros. But what you're going to notice is just a whole bunch of zeros. So even when you add, it's not changing the original numbers that you came out with. But if, especially with us being in this beginning phase of multiplying decimals, this is okay. There is nothing wrong with you if you put the zeros in. Please do not feel like I'm looking at you in a different way or that anybody is making fun of you, because you're doing some good math things out here, okay? So some of you recognize that you don't need to multiply by those zeros, and some of you just want to do it to kind of get in that habit. So adding up. Now you're going to look back to the original. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, or if you were into that highlighting, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Put your decimal here, and you have 27 thousandths. Okay. If that was too much for you, remember that you still can do it. You could take those and change them to whole numbers, 3 times 9, and end up with 27. But then realizing that you need to make sure that within your product that you put the place value for the decimal. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and that was another thing that was a question. If there aren't any numbers there when you're moving over, a 0 takes the spot. Okay, a 0 holds that place. All right, let's take a look at this last example here. And it's a story situation. Okay, so a mile is equal to approximately 1 and 609 thousandths kilometers. How many kilometers is 2 and 5/10 miles? Okay, so looking at that, we know that 1 mile equals 1 and 609 thousand thousandths, sorry, kilometers. So now we're going to think of 2 and 5/10. So we're going to take 1 and 609 times 2 and 5/10. Okay, not paying attention to the decimals, we're just going to just multiply. 5 times 9, 45. 5 times 0, 0 plus 4, 4. 5 times 6, 30. That 3 comes up. 5 times 1 is 5, plus the 3 is 8. Now we're starting with the next place value, so we have to hold this, the 0, and start with the 2. 2 times 9, 18. 2 times 0, 0 plus 1. It's 1. 2 times 6, 12. Carry the 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 2. Add it up. Okay. Now pay attention to how many decimals you have. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Put your decimal here. Okay, so 2 and 5/10 miles is approximately 3 and 225 ten-thousandths kilometers. Right? All right, so that's where we're at with our story situations, and I'm just looking at my work to make sure that I even multiplied correctly, because I'm looking at my estimate and I'm thinking that I might have a quick error. So let's take a look at this. Good lesson to learn. In my estimation, I have 1, and that 6 is there, so I'm thinking that's about 2, and 2 times 2 is about 4, and I'm at 3. So let's look at my multiplication. 5 times 9, 45, carry the 4. 5 times 0, 0 plus 4. 5 times 6, 30, 3, and 8. Now let's multiply 2 times 9, 18, 0, and 1. 2 times 6 is 12, and 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1, there it is, 3. Here we go. Okay, so that's how estimation comes into play. I noticed that when I got to my final product, something was wrong, so I looked back at my numbers to estimate, and this should be 4. So 4 and 225 ten-thousandths. All right, don't ever be afraid to second guess yourself and to look at your work, because within multiplication, as we get into more and more intense multiplication, easy mistakes happen. All right. I'm going to stop right there because it looks like we're at about time. Let's come back together tomorrow. Come with questions. Try to solve some of those problems on the back of that worksheet. See if you can do it. Don't stress out about it. And we'll have a quick quiz tomorrow to see if we're ready to move on with division of decimals. Thank you for watching the video. Have a good night.